The sky turned dark earlier than usual that evening. Thick clouds covered the town, and the air felt heavy and uneasy. People hurried inside their homes as the wind began to howl. Soon, rain started falling hard, beating against windows and roofs. Thunder echoed across the streets, and flashes of lightning lit up the sky for brief moments. It was clear that this storm was stronger than most. In an old house near the edge of the town lived an elderly couple named Sam and Rose. They had lived there for many years and knew every sound the house made. The wooden floors creaked, the walls whispered when the wind blew, and the basement often smelled damp after heavy rain. That night, Sam lit a few candles as the lights suddenly went out. The blackout did not surprise them. Storms often caused power problems in the area. Rose placed the candles carefully on the table and smiled gently. She tried to stay calm, even though the thunder made her heart beat faster. Sam pulled a blanket around her shoulders and told her everything would be fine. They decided to sit together and wait for the storm to pass. Upstairs, two kids named Leo and Mia were staying in the house for the weekend. They were relatives visiting from another part of town. At first, the storm excited them. They watched the rain race down the windows and laughed when the thunder shook the house. But as time passed, boredom slowly replaced excitement. Without lights, phones, or television, they had nothing to do. Leo picked up a small flashlight and waved it around the room. Mia sighed and sat on the floor, listening to the rain. Suddenly, both of them heard a strange sound. It was faint at first, like dripping water. The sound came from below. They looked at each other, curious and unsure. Leo suggested they check the basement. Mia hesitated. The basement always felt cold and dark, even during the day. But curiosity won. They slowly made their way downstairs, using the flashlight to guide them. The steps were old and narrow, and the sound of rain seemed louder underground. When they reached the basement, they noticed small streams of water coming through the walls. The storm outside was forcing rain into the ground, and the basement floor was already wet. The sound they heard was water dripping into a corner drain. Leo stepped closer, trying to see where it came from. At that moment, a loud crash of thunder shook the house. Mia screamed and jumped back. The flashlight slipped from Leo's hand and rolled across the floor. Both kids panicked. Without thinking, they turned and ran back up the stairs as fast as they could. In their rush, Leo pulled the basement door shut behind them. The old latch clicked into place. They did not notice it at the time. Their only thought was to get away from the dark and the noise below. They leaned against the door, breathing hard, their hearts racing. Down in the basement, Sam and Rose had decided to check on the strange sounds as well. They had slowly made their way downstairs, using a candle for light. When they reached the bottom, they saw the water and felt concerned. Sam wanted to see if a drain was blocked. As he stepped forward, the candle flickered. Then they heard the door close. Sam turned quickly and called out, but the sound of the storm above drowned his voice. He walked to the door and tried the handle. It would not move. The latch was stuck. Rose felt fear rise in her chest, but she held onto Sam's arm. She reminded herself to stay calm. The water on the floor slowly spread, covering more space. It was not deep yet, but it was rising. Upstairs, Leo and Mia tried to calm down. They laughed nervously, thinking they had just scared themselves. But then Mia asked a question that made them both freeze. She asked where Sam and Rose were. Leo's smile faded. They remembered the elderly couple had gone downstairs earlier. A quiet fear filled the room. Leo reached for the door handle and tried to open it. It would not turn. He pulled harder, but the door stayed closed. Mia felt her stomach tighten. She knocked and called out, but the thunder outside made it hard to hear anything. Below, Sam knocked back, hoping someone would hear. Rose stood close to him, her shoes already wet. The basement felt colder now. The candle burned low, and shadows danced along the walls. The storm continued outside, unaware of what was happening inside the old house. Rain poured harder, and the wind pushed against the walls. Upstairs and downstairs, fear slowly grew. Both the kids and the elderly couple realized that something was wrong, and the night was far from over. The storm outside showed no sign of stopping. Rain kept falling heavily, hitting the ground and walls with force. Inside the house, the silence between thunder felt heavy and tense. Upstairs, Leo and Mia stood near the basement door, unsure of what to do next. The handle still would not move, no matter how hard Leo pulled it. Mia tried pushing, then pulling again, but the door stayed shut. Fear slowly replaced their panic. They realized this was no longer a small mistake. Leo placed his ear against the door and listened. At first, he heard nothing but the storm. Then, faintly, he heard a knock from the other side. His heart dropped. Someone was down there. Leo knocked back and shouted Sam's name. His voice shook, and his throat felt dry. The thunder made it hard to hear any reply, but they knew the elderly couple was trapped. Mia felt tears rise in her eyes. She hugged herself and whispered that this was their fault. Down in the basement, Sam heard the knock and felt a small wave of hope. He knocked again and called out, trying to keep his voice strong. Rose stood beside him, holding the candle carefully. The flame was smaller now, and the air felt damp and cold. Water covered the floor completely and was slowly rising up their shoes. Rose reminded Sam to stay calm. She believed panic would only make things worse. Sam nodded and tried the door again, pressing his shoulder against it. The latch did not move. The wood felt swollen from moisture, making the door even harder to open. Upstairs, Leo searched the room for something that could help. He checked drawers and cabinets, but the power outage made it hard to see clearly. Mia held the flashlight tightly, pointing it wherever Leo looked. She tried calling out again, telling Sam and Rose they were trying to help. The sound of water reached their ears through the door. A quiet but steady noise. Mia realized the basement might be flooding. Her breathing became fast, and she felt dizzy. Leo told her to sit down and take slow breaths. He knew they needed to think clearly. They remembered that the house had old tools stored in a closet near the stairs. Leo rushed over and opened it. Inside were dusty boxes, a broom, and a metal bar used for lifting heavy things. He grabbed the bar and returned to the door. Carefully, he tried to use it to force the latch open. The metal scraped against the wood, but the door did not give way. Down below, the water reached Sam's ankles. It was cold and uncomfortable. Rose lifted her skirt slightly to keep it dry. The candle flickered again, and Sam worried it might go out. Without light, the basement would be completely dark. Rose suggested moving to a higher step near the stairs. Sam agreed, and they carefully stepped back, feeling their way through the water. They stood on the first step, which was still dry. It gave them a small sense of safety, but they knew it would not last forever. Upstairs, Leo hit the door again with the metal bar. His arms ached, and sweat mixed with rainwater that had blown in through a cracked window. Mia shouted for help through the front door, hoping someone outside might hear her. The wind carried her voice away, but she did not stop. Minutes passed slowly. Every second felt longer than the last. Leo's mind raced. He thought about how scared Sam and Rose must be. He felt guilt weigh heavily on him. This had started as a careless moment, and now it had become something serious. Down in the basement, Sam spoke softly to Rose, telling her stories from their past to keep her calm. He talked about sunny days, long walks, and laughter. Rose listened and smiled faintly, even though fear sat deep in her chest. She trusted Sam, and that trust gave her strength. The water rose another inch. Sam checked the walls and saw more water seeping in. The storm outside was still strong. He wondered how long the house could hold. Upstairs, Mia finally heard something outside that was not thunder. It sounded like footsteps splashing through puddles. She ran to the window and wiped away the fog with her sleeve. Through the rain, she saw a shadow moving toward the house. She shouted as loud as she could. A neighbor named Paul heard her and looked up. He saw her waving and rushed toward the door. Relief washed over Mia's face. She opened the door and explained everything quickly, her words tumbling over each other. Paul listened carefully, his face serious. He asked where the basement door was and followed her inside. When he saw the stuck door and heard the water behind it, he knew there was no time to waste. Down below, Sam and Rose heard new voices upstairs. Hope returned stronger than before. Sam knocked again, and this time the sound was answered quickly. Rose closed her eyes and whispered a quiet thank you. Paul grabbed the metal bar and positioned it near the latch. He told Leo and Mia to step back. With steady force, he pushed hard. The wood creaked loudly, but the door still held. Water pressed against it from the other side. Paul took a deep breath and tried again, using all his strength. The door shook, and the latch began to bend. Everyone held their breath as the storm raged on outside. The moment felt long and uncertain. Upstairs and downstairs, hearts pounded as they waited for the door to give way. The night was far from over, but hope now stood closer than fear. The storm outside continued with loud rain and strong wind, but inside the house, all focus stayed on the basement door. Paul stood firmly, holding the metal bar with both hands. Leo and Mia watched nervously from behind, their hands shaking. The sound of water pressing against the door could now be clearly heard. It was no longer a small leak. It was rising fast. Paul pushed the bar again, harder this time. The wood groaned, and the latch bent slightly. He paused for a moment to adjust his grip. He knew rushing could cause the door to break in the wrong way. He needed control, not panic. He told Leo to hold the flashlight steady and asked Mia to stand ready to help. Down in the basement, Sam and Rose stood on the steps, water swirling below them. The candle flame was weak now. Sam shielded it with his hand, trying to keep it alive. Rose held the railing tightly. Her legs felt tired, but she stayed strong. She could hear the sounds from above more clearly now. Each noise gave her hope. Sam called out again, telling them where they were standing. His voice echoed in the damp space. Paul heard him and answered back, telling them to stay where they were. The exchange of voices made everyone feel less alone. Paul placed the bar once more near the latch and leaned his weight into it. With a loud crack, the latch finally gave way. The door opened a few inches, and water rushed forward, spilling onto the floor upstairs. Leo jumped back as cold water splashed his shoes. Paul quickly pulled the door wider. The sight below made everyone freeze for a second. The basement floor was covered in dark water, and Sam and Rose stood on the steps, holding onto each other. Their clothes were wet at the bottom, but they were still standing. Without wasting time, Paul stepped onto the stairs. He reached down and offered his hand to Rose first. She took it carefully, moving slowly to keep her balance. Sam followed closely behind, gripping the railing. Leo and Mia stood ready, holding towels and guiding them up. As Sam reached the top, his legs trembled. Leo helped support him while Mia wrapped a towel around Rose's shoulders. The elderly couple was finally out of the basement. Water continued to pour out behind them, spreading across the floor. Paul quickly shut the door partway to slow the flow and led everyone into the living room. He told Leo to grab more towels and asked Mia to bring blankets. The storm still roared outside, but inside, a sense of relief filled the air. Rose sat on the couch, breathing slowly. Sam sat beside her, holding her hand tightly. Their faces showed exhaustion, but also gratitude. Mia knelt in front of them, her eyes filled with tears. She apologized again and again, her voice shaking. Leo stood beside her, his head lowered, unable to meet their eyes. Sam looked at the kids for a long moment. Then he spoke softly. He told them that fear can make people act without thinking, but what matters is helping and learning. Rose nodded in agreement and placed her hand gently on Mia's arm. Her touch was warm and forgiving. Paul checked the house to make sure no other areas were flooding. He blocked the basement door as best as he could and opened a window slightly to let some water drain away. The rain outside slowly began to ease, though the wind still howled. The lights flickered once, then went out again. Everyone hoped power would return soon, but for now, candles were lit again. The small flames made the room feel calm and safe. The house no longer felt like a place of fear. Sam asked for some warm water, and Mia quickly brought it. Rose wrapped herself in a blanket and leaned back, finally able to relax. Leo stood nearby, unsure of what to do next. Paul told him he did well by trying and not giving up. Minutes passed, and the storm began to weaken. The heavy rain softened into a steady fall. The sounds outside grew quieter. Inside, the tension slowly faded. Sam and Rose shared stories to pass the time. They spoke about storms they had seen before and how things always felt worse in the moment. Leo and Mia listened carefully. They realized how serious the situation had been and how close they came to losing something precious. Paul stayed until he was sure the water level had stopped rising. He promised to return in the morning to help clean the basement and check for damage. Before leaving, he reminded the kids to always ask for help when unsure. As the night moved on, everyone felt tired but thankful. The house stood strong despite the storm. The danger had passed, but the lesson remained clear in the minds of Leo and Mia. Upstairs, the wind faded into a quiet breeze. Downstairs, the water settled. The storm that brought fear also brought understanding. What started as a careless moment had turned into a night that changed everyone involved. The storm finally began to calm as the night moved forward. Rain still fell, but it was softer now, no longer pounding the house with the same force. Inside the living room, candles flickered gently, casting warm light on tired faces. Sam and Rose sat close together on the couch, wrapped in blankets. Their bodies were weak from the cold water and fear, but their minds felt clearer now. Leo and Mia sat across from them on the floor. Neither of the kids spoke much. Their thoughts were heavy. They kept replaying the moment when the basement door had closed. What felt like a small action at the time now felt huge. The silence in the room was not uncomfortable, but it was full of reflection. Paul checked his phone again, hoping the signal would return. Still nothing. He sighed and told everyone that help services would likely arrive in the area by morning once the storm fully passed. Until then, staying calm and warm was the best choice. Rose thanked Paul again for coming when he did. Her voice was soft but full of honesty. Paul smiled and said anyone would have done the same. He reminded them that neighbors should always look out for each other. His words made the room feel closer, like a family instead of strangers. Sam slowly stood up with Leo's help. He wanted to check the front door and windows. Even though his legs were shaky, he felt responsible for the house. Paul went with him, making sure he stayed steady. They walked carefully, stepping around small puddles of water near the basement door. Outside, the street looked different. Leaves, branches, and debris were scattered everywhere. The rain reflected candlelight through the window, creating a calm glow. Sam nodded quietly, thankful the house was still standing strong. Back in the living room, Mia helped Rose sip some warm water. Rose smiled at her and told her not to blame herself anymore. She explained that everyone makes mistakes, especially when fear takes control. What matters most is choosing to fix those mistakes. Mia listened closely. Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were not only from fear. They were from relief and understanding. She promised herself she would never act without thinking again. Leo sat beside Sam and apologized directly. He spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. Sam listened and placed a hand on Leo's shoulder. He told him that being brave is not about never making mistakes. It is about facing them honestly. The power suddenly flickered. For a moment, everyone held their breath. Then the lights came on. The room filled with brightness, and a soft cheer escaped Mia's lips. The return of light felt like a sign that the worst was over. With the lights back, everyone could see the marks the storm had left behind. Wet floors, muddy footprints, and damp furniture told the story of the night. But more than that, the faces in the room showed strength and survival. Paul smiled and said it was a good time to make some tea. The simple act brought comfort. Soon, warm cups were passed around. The heat helped everyone relax further. Sam suggested that Leo and Mia get some rest. The kids looked unsure, but Rose encouraged them. She said the morning would come soon, and rest would help clear their minds. Leo and Mia agreed and headed upstairs, though sleep did not come quickly. In their room, the kids talked quietly about everything that had happened. They realized how quickly things can change and how important it is to think before acting. The storm outside had taught them a lesson stronger than any words. Downstairs, Sam and Rose sat together, listening to the calm that followed the storm. Rose rested her head on Sam's shoulder. They were tired, but grateful. They spoke about how life can test people when they least expect it. Paul stayed a little longer, making sure everything was safe. Before leaving, he promised to return in the morning to help clean and repair. Sam thanked him sincerely. They shook hands, a simple gesture filled with respect. As Paul stepped outside, the rain had almost stopped. The night felt peaceful again. Inside the house, lights glowed softly, replacing the fear that once lived there. Sam locked the door and returned to Rose. Together, they walked slowly to their bedroom. The house creaked gently, as if settling after the long night. They climbed into bed, still holding hands. Upstairs, Leo and Mia finally drifted into sleep. Their dreams were quiet, filled with thoughts of lessons learned and second chances. The storm had passed, but its impact stayed. The house had faced darkness, water, and fear. Yet it stood strong, just like the people inside. Morning would bring cleanup and repairs, but also a new sense of care and understanding. Morning arrived quietly after the long night. Soft sunlight filtered through the windows, touching the walls that had witnessed fear and courage. The storm was gone, and the air outside felt fresh and clean. Birds returned to the trees, and the town slowly woke up, unaware of how close danger had come inside the old house. Sam woke first. His body felt stiff, and his legs were sore, but he was thankful to be safe. He looked at Rose sleeping beside him and smiled gently. Her breathing was calm, and her face looked peaceful again. He sat up slowly and listened to the quiet house. No rain, no wind, only calm. Downstairs, the living room showed signs of the storm. Towels lay on the floor, and the smell of damp wood filled the air. Sam made his way carefully to the kitchen and started boiling water. He wanted to make tea before anyone else woke up. Simple routines helped him feel normal again. Soon, Rose joined him. She wrapped a sweater around her shoulders and helped arrange the cups. They spoke softly, sharing relief and gratitude. They agreed that the night could have ended very differently, and that thought made them thankful for every small thing. Upstairs, Leo and Mia woke up slowly. For a moment, they forgot what had happened. Then memories returned. They sat up quickly and looked at each other. The house was quiet, but their hearts beat fast. They dressed and went downstairs together. When they saw Sam and Rose in the kitchen, safe and smiling, their fear eased. Mia walked over and hugged Rose carefully. Leo nodded at Sam, his face full of respect. Sam greeted them warmly and invited them to sit at the table. As they drank tea together, the events of the night were talked about openly. No one raised their voice. No one blamed. Instead, they spoke about choices, fear, and responsibility. Sam explained how calm thinking can save lives, even in the worst moments. A knock at the door interrupted them. It was Paul, just as he promised. He brought tools and a friendly smile. He checked the basement first and confirmed the water had stopped rising. Some damage was done, but nothing that could not be fixed with time and effort. Neighbors soon arrived to help. Word had spread about the storm damage, and people came with mops, buckets, and kind words. The house filled with movement and warmth. Leo and Mia worked alongside everyone, cleaning and carrying items. They wanted to make things right. As the basement was cleared, sunlight reached places that had been dark. The water was gone, leaving behind muddy marks on the walls. Sam looked around and felt hopeful. Repairs could be made. What mattered most was that everyone was safe. Rose prepared lunch for everyone who helped. The simple meal tasted better than anything she could remember. Laughter returned to the house, replacing the fear from the night before. The storm felt like a distant memory now. Later in the afternoon, Leo and Mia sat outside on the steps. They watched clouds drift slowly across the sky. Mia said she would never forget that night. Leo agreed. They understood now that actions have weight, even small ones. Sam joined them and sat down carefully. He told them that life gives lessons in many forms. Sometimes they come quietly, and sometimes they come like a storm. The important thing is to learn and grow. As evening approached, the house looked cleaner and stronger. The basement door had been fixed, and new locks were added. Sam made sure everyone knew how to use them safely. Rose placed fresh flowers on the table, a symbol of new beginnings. Paul said goodbye and thanked everyone for working together. Neighbors waved as they left, leaving behind a sense of community that felt deeper than before. That night, the house felt different. It felt safer, warmer, and more alive. Sam and Rose sat together in the living room, listening to soft music. Leo and Mia played quietly upstairs, their laughter gentle and calm. The storm had changed them all. It had tested fear, patience, and courage. It had shown how mistakes can lead to growth and how kindness can bring people together. As the lights dimmed and the house settled into rest, everyone felt a quiet peace. The night that once held danger now became a memory of strength and learning. The story of the flooding basement was not one of fear anymore. It became a story of care, responsibility, and second chances. A storm had come and gone, but the lessons it brought stayed forever.